Good morning again. Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And I want to talk about having judgment, like common sense kind of judgment, where you can quickly at a glance identify types of people, such as, children or adults or someone in between, because, they don't just transform magically on their 18th birthday, let's be honest. So I want to use an example, a real world example from my own experience, a daily situation that I observe myself. And there are a number of schools in my small town. There's an elementary school, a middle school, a high school, there's a preschool and kindergarten. And at the high school, they still have a crossing guard, a school crossing guard. It's kind of funny, sad, a little bit sad, because I think, if you ask me, they didn't ask me, but at that point, they should probably be learning how to cross the road on their own, carefully, without help. Pretty important, it just in general, to be able to do that as an adult. And what better time than in high school to be preparing for adulthood, I think. So down the road, that's where it gets interesting. There's the middle school and their crossing guard on the busy road, and that one's probably called for. And the woman who works that intersection, it's the same lady every day. She is very good at what she does. She's this short Hispanic woman, and I'm 100% sure she's the best that you can have doing that. She's fully qualified, you can just tell. And she respectfully lets the kids cross. She helps them with her stop sign. And for adults such as myself, when they approach the crosswalk, if there's no children present, she doesn't move. And that's, if you ask me, the right thing to do. Adults typically don't need assistance crossing the road. That would be ridiculous, right? So back to the high school. I don't want to name any names. I actually know the name of the person, and I have a little bit of history, so I'm going to take the high road here and not call him out. But dude has no judgment. And I know this because he can't recognize the difference, or refuses, I should say, to recognize the difference between children and adults. Dude's out there, with his stop sign, doesn't matter who comes up. Everybody, literally everybody. He makes no attempt to discern or differentiate between children and adults. And if you carry this logic forward, I want to look at the principle of this. This man is voting for something by his choice and his behavior, and perhaps by his absence of moral compass. He is voting for adulthood as a unilateral transition that happens by law at 18. Why would he do that? I mean, I don't want to read too far into this, but there are some benefits if you're, unscrupulous, after which point she cannot defend herself legally, kind of thing. Know what I mean? And I'm not saying this person is doing that, but it's the basis for that argument in general. You cannot accuse somebody of statutory rape if the partners, both of them, were over the age of 18. But unfortunately, in reality, people sometimes mature much later than that. They do. And I think it would be great to actually just, use reason, observation, common sense, propriety, and not some unilateral rule that throws every 18-year-old girl under the bus, so to speak. I think that this becomes a double-edged sword, and I understand the reasons on both sides. I understand that people commonly misunderstand rules as being fair when they are only equally unfair to everybody. I'm going to say that twice. People think that rules are fair because they apply to everybody. That just makes them equal. It does not make them fair. And in fact, what you end up doing is you empower half the people inappropriately while limiting the other half who would be responsible also inappropriately. This is why circumstances have to matter, and that rules can and should be invoked after there's some kind of problem. You're going to notice a theme in my videos. Rules, laws, policies, regulations can only be justifiably invoked after there is some kind of damage outside of a contract. Non-consensual damage is a crime. That's the definition of crime, if you ask me. Non-consensual damage. So it begs the question, what is consent, right? Here's the problem. Nobody can agree on this. Ironically, nobody can consent to a definition that is acceptable for consent. So I've gone ahead and done that. And I hate to use up your time, but I've mentioned this as well in other videos. It's a 5-part device, very simple and easy to commit to memory. I'm going to just repeat it real quick. Consent, if you ask me, starts with wherewithal. Part one. That is, you are able to understand the proposal and its central effects, not just today, but moving forward indefinitely. Part two. Consciousness. Consciousness is very important. It's so important that it has to be mentioned specifically. That is, you cannot expect somebody who might or would give consent, in your opinion, but they're in a coma, for example, or they're incapacitated or drunk or something. That doesn't work. That would not work. Part three is brevity for written consent. In the event of a written contract, it has to be digestible. It has to be easily understood by the average person without a legal degree or a law degree. And that's important because there's a common abuse. Voluminous contracts with stuff buried in them, the fine print, so to speak, can't have that. That invalidates the contract. Part four is perhaps the most important of all. Part four is the most important one of all, and that is the consent itself. And why this is important is because it can be implied. It can obviously be express. We all understand express consent. That is a signed contract or a verbal agreement, but it can also be implied or retroactive. Those are valid. Maybe you just didn't have time to fully examine the proposal, but in the future, if you look back and you're like, yeah, I was 100% in favor of it. No objections. That is valid. That's fine. The fifth part is a safety measure. No riders, no group consent, no terms of service where if you sign up to be a member of a group, you are expected to do other things as that member, as a membership obligation. That does not work. That is not valid consent. That would be an abuse as well. If all five of these conditions are met, you have what I consider to be valid consent. And that's all you need to know. If it's between two consenting people, that's the end of the conversation. It's not your business after that. That question needs to be answered honestly, and if necessary, by a court and a judge if there is an actual complaint, something substantial. Reasonable doubt, right? So this, I can't tell children from adults, bullshit, pardon me. Yes, you can. Let's start with honesty. We're not going anywhere until you can admit what you recognize. Reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com.